As the Call Moms sat down for our first meeting in 2013, we began to review what we felt like we did really well in 2012 and what we really felt like we wished we could have done a little bit better. And one of the things on our list was more book reviews. We know that as homeschooling moms and busy moms who are working part-time jobs and dealing with children and just having life, that sometimes you don't have a lot of time to really research what you should be reading to edify you, to increase your integrity and your intellect. And so sometimes it's just really helpful to have a trusted source tell you, I've read this and it's worth it. I've read that and it's not. And so we really wanted to commit to you guys to start reviewing more of the books that we're reading and letting you know how they're edifying us and changing us. And we hope that you'll do the same as you read really good books this year. We hope that you will get on our website and post some of those for other Call Moms. And so we can begin to share our time and our energy as we're reading these books. The first one that I want to review this year is called Love is a Decision by Gary Smalley. I do suggest before you start this that you go ahead and read The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman, and basically the idea of The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman, which is readily available at any Christian bookstore or even on Amazon. The concept that Dr. Chapman works through is that we each speak a language of how we feel love. And a lot of us are speaking the language that we feel to those around us when that's not how they feel love. And so in his book, he begins to give you a quiz on, first of all, how do you feel love? When people do things for you, how do you receive it and realize, yes, I feel loved? And then for your spouse, how does he feel love? And it begins to kind of open your mind to the fact that just because your love language is Swahili doesn't mean that if you're speaking that to your husband, he's understanding it, whereas he really just wants you to speak Italian to him. And so it begins to kind of give you the tools that you need to be able to speak the language that your husband, as well as your kiddos and people around you, are speaking as well. And so I strongly encourage that before you read any other marriage book, that you start off with that one, evaluating and deciding what your love language is and then what your spouse's love language is. Once you've kind of gotten that and you kind of have a feel for that book that I really do feel like can change a marriage in an instant, then it's really great for this Love is a Decision by Gary Smalley to begin to read. And the book, the title, Love is a Decision, seems like a little more drastic. And if your marriage is just kind of in status quo and life is good and there's no real bumps in the road, it seems like you probably don't need that. But he goes a little bit deeper than that. And the preface of the book is that, in the early days of love, everything is just chemical. It's wonderful. It feels so good to be in love. It feels good to be with them. It feels good to be around them. And because it feels so good, there are so many things that we just ignore. The way that he didn't acknowledge you at that moment, or the way that he didn't ask you what you thought at that moment, or the way that he didn't exactly value your opinion at that minute. But once those chemicals start to fade, and let me tell you, mortgages and bills and children and stress of real life help those fade fast, then all of those little things that were happening even in the early days become really big offenses, and they start nicking away at the foundation of our marriage, and really breaking our resolve and our decision to stay in love. And so there is a moment, and I think anybody who's been married for a decent amount of time can tell you, when love has to switch from being a reaction to a decision. And I think that a lot of even Christians could save their marriage if they would follow his advice and change from reacting to the circumstances in their life and making the decision to the circumstances in their life to stay in love and in love with their spouse. And so his book really walks you through this. Even for those of us that aren't, like I said, in a bad situation, he gives some really new ideas on how to respond to your spouse, how to handle those little nicks in the armor immediately, and how to do it in a way that's respectful to your husband and respectful to yourself, and how you can set up a situation where honor is the main emphasis of your life. There's so many good quotes in this book, but one of the ones that I really do love that he says is, what is the biblical principle that kept our emotions in check during a difficult time? The ability to be gentle and tenderly to touch one another. I think that's a pretty significant quote, that even in the midst of any trauma, and he's talking about a pretty severe issue at that moment that he and his wife are going through, but the ability to disengage from the stressful work situation that was affecting their family financially and be able to disengage from that and say, I still am tender to you, I still love you, and I still want to love on you. And what an amazing impact that has on his relationship with his wife. Another really great quote that he has is, "Every enduring marriage involves an unconditional commitment to an imperfect person." I really love that. An unconditional commitment to an imperfect person. Man, am I glad that Jake Davis has made that decision to have that unconditional commitment to this imperfect person. The book is just a really great reminder of how to speak to our spouse, how to live in honor and respect to our spouse, and how that can change things so drastically if we will just consistently and decisively walk in our decision to love our husband, and how much that can change not only your marriage but your family as well. So I strongly encourage Love is a Decision by Gary Smalley, any Christian bookstore nearby you. It's published by Thomas Nelson, and is a wonderful book. We would love to hear your recommendations. If you're reading anything good, please post it on our Facebook page or our webpage to share with our other mommy friends. We hope you are having a spectacular start to your 2012. We're praying for you. Have a great day.